Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any psychiatric condition. They're a serious mental health illness and we need to be talking about them in schools. I've come to Hull to meet with Gemma Oaten. She was just 10 when her eating disorder developed. Now she's helping her old school include eating disorders as part of their mental health education. What was it like being at school, living with an eating disorder? How did you cope with that?
It was very isolating. It was very lonely, and that's not to say that it was anything to do with the school's fault. The teachers were amazing. Back then, you know, it wasn't spoken about, and a lot of my friends didn't understand, a lot of my teachers didn't understand. You know, so it's very difficult.
Eating disorders themselves are a form of mental health illness, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Were you aware of that at the time, and what did you find people's thoughts were around it?
I lost 13 years of my life and nearly died 4 times. I don't want that to happen to anybody else, to understand what an eating disorder is. It's not about food. Food is the symptom, it's not the cause.
It's pretty clear that teaching about eating disorders at school is absolutely vital for young people.
Early intervention is so key when it comes to the recovery rate of eating disorders. One of the biggest misconceptions and worries from teachers and parents when we talk about it initially is that by talking to kids about eating disorders, we're going to trigger it. And that's not true, because an eating disorder is going to present itself no matter what. But what we can do is give them the education and tools that they need to recognise it. You know, what we want is for them to go, right, something doesn't feel right, something's not working the same, I need support for this.
And that brings us on, I think, nicely to what you're doing here at this school and other schools around the area. You've actually set up a charity, haven't you? What
we're trying to do with SEED, especially with our eating disorder educational toolkit, is to make sure that every child in the country has a fighting chance to have the tools they need to be able to help them if an eating disorder presents itself.
I'm excited to go back in the classroom with you, do some learning myself.
What's misunderstood about eating disorders is that it's not a vanity illness. It's not a slimmer's disease. It's not about looking at something and then suddenly going, "Ooh, I've seen an image, I want to be like that, I'm going to change." It's not, it's a way of dealing with pain. It's a massive misconception that there's just anorexia nervosa. 10% of eating disorders are represented by those with anorexia. There's still 90% which is covered from a range of bulimia. There's also overeating, which is a massive misconception. Everybody just thinks that overeating is about being lazy and, you know, just loving chocolate. It's not. Somebody who overeats is dealing with a psychological pain as well most of the time. You know, you can have an eating disorder and be at any weight, any shape or form, any race, any creed, any sexual orientation, eating disorders do not discriminate.
Do you think that having this conversation today has made you feel more open about talking about mental health, eating disorders and, you know, your well-being in general?
I'm definitely now not ashamed to speak forward to my friends about either how I'm feeling or how they're feeling.
Was there anything from today's talk that was new that you didn't know before?
I was quite surprised that an eating disorder could be someone that overeats or binge eats. Someone that I would stereotype would be someone that was skinny in figure, and it was quite shocking to me that that's not always the case.
I think it's definitely something that needs to be spoken about more. There's not much coverage on it. People almost feel ashamed of saying that they have a mental disorder or even a physical disorder, and I feel like it needs to be something that people don't feel ashamed to talk about anymore.
What you've taught us today, I wouldn't have learned anywhere else.